It's a welcome back to Rene and Meulensteen. Thank you very much for coming in.
And we got an influx of questions from Bolton fans asking, can you go in back to Bolton, please?
I mean, I was born in the Midlands, but Bolton is my town, my club.
So you see, Bruno Fernandes is the captain. I rate him so much in many ways in terms of a player. But on the other hand, I think you're not a captain. You're never a captain.
I wanted to get both your thoughts straight away on the comments that Amorim has made this week about Manchester United.
Well, my opinion is this: dangerous.
Welcome to another episode of No Tippy Tappy Football. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Sam. How are you?
I'm very good, Natalie. How are you? You're much better after Ipswich results, aren't you?
Much better now,
I've
City are
never seen
looking.
you smile as much for a few weeks now.
Well, City have got PSG tonight, might end up going out of the Champions League, stand by. So this smile might not be long-lived. But
Bought a lot of players, though, haven't they? So, you know.
Exciting. Hopefully
He
exciting
decided
times.
that he had to move quickly to reinvent the team a little bit, like you mean, so see how he goes on in the future. But
Hopefully, yes. Now, we are joined by another returning guest today. We love a returning guest.
Another return.
Back by popular demand, I'm going to say, Sam. Who is our guest today?
I'm not surprised because his knowledge, and I've known him a long time, obviously, but his knowledge of football is always a pleasure to be with and listen to and debate. We've done it over many, many years together. So it's a welcome back to Rene and Meulensteen. Rene, thank you very much for coming in again.
Thanks for having me, Sam.
Thank you so much
And
for coming back.
And I just
Thank
heard
you.
that he's multilingual as well, which makes me very, very jealous on the amount of languages he can speak. So yes, great to have him.
Really looking forward to getting your take on Manchester United, Rene, but we've got to start with something today because news broke this morning that Ian Evatt has been sacked or departed from Bolton, which obviously meant before we started filming today, Sam, we got an influx of questions from Bolton fans asking, can you go in back to Bolton, please? In fact, Martin specifically said, can we just borrow Sam a bit from the pod?
From the pod, I don't know what the position is at Bolton like because obviously, you know, I left in 2007. Staggering amount of time has passed, isn't it?
Yeah.
I look back now and think 2007, it's 2025 now. Time flies, doesn't it? You know, my passion for Bolton is always there. You know, look. I mean, I was born in the Midlands, but Bolton is my town, my club. Like, I mean, everybody knows that because of the great times I had as a player and as the manager. But if I can help, I would. If they actually, you know, asked me to, not as the manager though. I think that needs to go to somebody that's ready to take the club to the next level, and the board hopefully there to support him.
Shall we go in both, Sam?
Yeah,
You and me. What a dream team.
You know what I mean?
Yes, definitely.
And I have
Would
to be
be,
fair. I have to be fair. Ian did a great job at Bolton. You know, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, this season has, and then I think when the fans turn on you a little bit, which appears to be the case, then the board listens, don't they? And when the board are getting that pressure, then they make a decision. But you know, there's many good coaches would want that position.
It all starts with environment and resources. Number one, got a great stadium.
Yep.
I don't necessarily know about the training facilities, but that's some. And the next thing is culture. And Sam would be the perfect person, in my opinion, to say, okay, he knows what cultures he created, and it was successful, and what would fit with Bolton, because the cultures with certain clubs can be different. Probably the culture with Bolton was different as what it was in West Ham, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it would be a great help. I mean, especially for young managers, because if you got somebody there that can take care of a lot of other aspects that you don't really want to. You're aware of it, but let me just focus on the team and all this and that. You got somebody like Sam looking after that.
I wouldn't want the job. The fear of them thinking if I went back in to help that I'd be there to take the job is just total nonsense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if I wanted to go back and I want the manager's job, I'd say, well, I'd like to go back to Bolton and manage them. I wouldn't. I'd like to go back and help them if I could, but not as the manager.
I think that's nice and clear.
Natalie, the one thing I have to say, because we had a few players, when I was still working for Australian national team, we had a few players playing for Bolton. So I went to Bolton regularly to keep tabs on him and look at him. And I have to say Every time I got there, I got invited into the boardroom, fantastically looked after, brilliant. And every time I sat there and I watched it in that stadium, I think, you know, it's a great place.
I'm just trying to set Bolton up, just trying to, get as many links here for the pod as possible, because
This
obviously...
might be a job interview.
Yes. Yeah, I know, right.
Just send it off.
I'm a plant by Bolton here to work out what's going on. Right, I've got a list
Well,
of
how many have we got? How many have we got a job? It's staggering.
23. And we've got...
23 lads who came on our podcast, by the way, ended
Really?
up with a job within 3 or 4 weeks after they came on.
Yeah. We've got some of 2. There's a little stretch there on a couple of them because Mark Clattenburg didn't really count, but he got a job at Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
But and Gladiators. But we have that on the wrist. But apart
Very
from
good.
that, everybody else.
Yeah,
And one player got a new club. So yeah, we've got so out of work managers that
Should come on our podcast.
I mean, absolutely should,
Shouldn't
by the way.
So
A name at the top of... So, before we get on to somebody you just mentioned, a name that jumped to my head with a Bolton link and with a U link, who's out of work and who's been on the podcast, Dean Holden.
Yeah, Holden, yeah.
It's a shout.
That's a shout, yeah.
Mark Hughes has been on the podcast.
Mark Hughes, yeah.
Maybe wants to. And then basically the bookies, the names on the bookies list. Ryan Lowe, Stephen Schumacher, Rob Edwards, Wayne Rooney, Neil Harris.
Yeah.
Any of them jumping out for you?
Well, I think obviously Rob Edwards on what he done at Luton. If he's ready to overcome his disappointment, like I mean, for what happened to him at Luton this year, it's quite strange, the demise of Luton and why it happened to him like it did. That now, it'd be interesting to know. I'd like him to come on actually if he's listening. It'd be interesting to come on and find out why. What he thought.
Right, let's move on from trying to sort Bolton's problem. Because, of course, we'd like to talk Manchester United. We're going to get our tactics board out in just a minute and go through some other bits. But I wanted to get both your thoughts straight away on the comments that Amorim has made this week about Manchester United, and this being the worst Manchester United team in the history of the club. I was shocked.
That's on top of being in the relegation fight.
He said that as
the week
well, yes.
before.
Yeah.
So my opinion is this: dangerous, very dangerous.
Okay.
Whether he said that out of the emotion he feels straight after a game, and whether the questions have been put to him that's prompted him into saying something he didn't really want to, which can be easily done when you're under that pressure. Because that's what they do. They gang up and start digging with the questions. If the first one doesn't get the second one will have a go, then the third, until you crack. And then that's what's a real problem when you're facing the press. Players will act in different ways to those comments. Mm-hmm. Some will have the attitude of I'll show you, and some will say, why is he talking to me like that? You know what I mean? What does he think? Why? Mm-hmm. I'm not that bad.
Mm. It definitely. I don't think it definitely doesn't help. As well as if you think about a manager that's just come in. How long has he been in the job? 2 months.
Yeah.
And a long 2 months as well. Isn't it?
It's a long 2 months, but I do totally agree with you, Sam. That could well be the case. Plus the fact again that he speaks in his second language, that is different. You know what I mean? You have to always understand that whatever comes to you, whatever you're going to say about it has a reaction, and the media, they're very well prepared because they want headlines and they want controversy because all that debate, and one revolves into another. So you always need to be aware. I think Sir Alex Ferguson was a master in communicating, because everything he said, he thought through. He knew exactly, if I say this, that will be the reaction. If I say that, that will be the reaction. I don't think he hasn't done that. I think he's, like I said, too young, speaks in second language. He doesn't really know the size of the task that he's got ahead of him. An easy catch, actually, for the media. Now, the thing is, this is okay, because this will come back. Because when you say these things once, they
it repeats itself.
They keep it comes back. That's the danger of those things. But the thing as well is, because at the end of the day, what is the biggest asset that he has got to work with? It's the players. And you've got a game tomorrow night in the Europa League, and he needs a reaction. Now, the thing is this, interesting, if there would have been a manager with, I would say, with a bigger aura and a bigger background, let's say Pep Guardiola, you know what I mean? And he would have come in, he left Man City and he goes to Man United. 8 months, but 8 months in the, 8 months in the job, 8 months in the job, and Pep says, this is the worst Man United team ever. That would have a complete different weight because Pep has won Premier Leagues, Champions League, and all that thing. Well, Pep says it. You know what I mean?
It's got to be true.
Yeah. Now this, and I could completely agree with you, Sam, by saying that it's dangerous, really dangerous.
He also reportedly smashed a television in the dressing room after the Brighton game.
That is that's a big TV.
Well, that's nothing big. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's a big TV, Natalie. You know how big that thing is?
No.
It's built in the wall. I don't know what he's done. How's he thrown a member of staff through it or something?
Would it take that?
That probably, I don't know, but it's
We've all.
It's a big TV.
Oh, have you? What have you done?
God,
Come on, Sam. Open up.
do me a favour, like teacups, table. Yeah.
Well,
Bruise me foot, kicking the skip. Bruise me, you know what I mean?
you in half time, Sam, or after the game?
Half time, rarely.
You know, the custom thing as well, Sam, was always like, say, let's assume you had a bad game and a bad result.
Yeah.
At those days when I was there, there was always a glass of wine, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know, in the
always.
Office. No, I think that's gone out the window as
It
well.
does, yeah. They rarely come in now.
I have to say, I have to tell you the story. You were the manager at Blackburn, and Sir Alex Ferguson was always making sure, Sam, make sure you bring a nice bottle of wine. And you brought this absolutely outstanding wine. And he gave it, now after the game, I don't know how to wine, but he gave it to Tony Coton, the goalkeeper coach, and he put it into a carafe, you know, one of these things just to breathe and all this. Watch this wine. And so Alex says, I'm really looking forward to this, Sam. So he poured the glass of wine. So Alex drank the wine. He went, like this. What's that? And Sam went, what do you mean? And Sam had a taste. And Tony Coton put Ribena in it.
Yeah.
He put Ribena in it. Yeah. I never laughed so much when I saw your face. Honestly, it was brilliant. Right, where's that wine?
Where's that wine? Yeah.
You spent a lot of money and a lot of effort in.
Oh, yeah. I had another one of them where I got one at West Ham for him. I made a bottle, like you mean. And unfortunately, the lady who brings in the sandwiches at the end of the game into my room and all that looked at this bottle and went, "Oh, that's off," threw it away. I didn't open it up to let it breathe, and it's like old with cobwebs on, and the label had gone like peeling off, like you mean. And she went, "Oh no, get down."
Threw it away.
And I went in and Alice goes, he says, "What? You said you got a decent bottle," because obviously the West Ham bottle was average.
Yeah.
Decidedly average, like you mean. So this one was, she threw it away. Oh God.
So if you're listening to the podcast, nothing changes. If you're watching on YouTube, we're just going to have a quick set change. We're going to bring in our now famous, to me at least, whiteboard. So we've had a quick change around. We've brought the board in because last time Rene was on, it was one of my favourite bits we've done on the podcast, the way that you were talking about the system and the tactics of Manchester United. So we had to bring the board back in for Rene to have a play along, of course, with Sam as well. We're going to get their thoughts on Manchester United's system and their tactics. But I want to start off, gents, the news, obviously, Garnacho's being linked with a move away from Manchester United in this transfer window, which I think on the surface level seems surprising given how talented and young he is. But then the underneath perhaps reasons, we know, Sam, how you feel about clubs having to sell young players.
I feel it's like pure profit for Man United if they get 50, 60 million for him. And it's a part of this financial fair play, which more often now looking like clubs are selling young players for the profit to balance out the financial fair play aspect, but not great for the fans. You know, young players who come through the system are what most fans love to see. I mean, I know they like to see the foreign imports today and what they can bring, but you know, every club loves a lad that comes through. You know, if he's been there from his 16, no matter what nationality he is, he's come through the system. He's playing for Manchester United or whatever football club they're at, and then they seem to be the ones that get sold for the financial fair play aspect because it's pure profit. You know what I mean? But I mean, whether that's the case or whether it's the case that the manager has said, look, I need better players. And then the board would say, after spending another 130, 40 million in the summer, well, you need to create your own finance. You need to help create some of your finance, which is what most clubs have to do. And who is going to bring the money in and who's going to bring a profit in. So it might be for that reason. And who did Man United pick to come and get better? Because obviously, I don't like being critical of Man United. I don't like being critical of anybody, really. But we all went on about when the change around happened, we all went on about the recruitment system. Man United's struggles over the last few years is what they have recruited and how much they've spent has not made the team as good as Man United should be. And here again, you know, we're faced with the fact that what Man United have brought in, how much better has it made them? And clearly at the moment, it's not the case. When they're languishing in the bottom half of the Premier League, you know, it takes you way back to, you know, the 70s when I played, because I played against Man United in the Championship. God forbid that won't happen to Man United this season, but he's already said we're in a relegation battle. So, you know, I don't know what good that does to players at Man United.
That was out the Sam Allardyce playbook, by
You
the
know what I
way,
mean?
that
So,
was Sam when
I don't
he said
know,
that.
I don't know whether that works the right way for them or not, but it's a dangerous thing to say, believe you me.
On Garnacho, I mean, Manchester United specifically, the academy players, I mean, we know that is in the DNA of the club. We know
Some
that
talent there.
Yeah.
There is some talent
Yeah.
there. It really is.
So if it's not like the PSL that Sam was mentioning, having to sell them because he's a youth player, if it's not that, is it because he is, or it could be indeed a mix of both, is he fitting into Amorim's system? Because we've heard from day one that Amorim likes to play his system.
Yeah, I don't think he will. I don't think he does. And he must, like Sam says, he must have had, the question must have asked to him to older players, because when you start somewhere, say who are the players that you want to work with? Now, Garnacho is a young player. It goes a little bit against, you know, what Man United always stood for over the years. Young players, bring young players through, give them an opportunity, See, Garnacho, in my opinion, I don't know how Sam thinks, is in the moment, he is for me a player, his strength is on hugging the line, in there, and then getting into 1v1 situations, and then he can work his magic or coming inside, whatever. Now he has asked to play in this pocket here, sort of off the striker, in this pocket here. So that demands completely different kind of movement, positioning, opening up, how you're facing up your positions, and you can clearly see he struggles with that. Amorim has already said, I'm not going to change, you know what I mean? Which I think, I have my reservations about that, and I think Sam has the same, because at the end of the day, what you want as a manager, you want to be successful. And you need to start looking at, okay, what can I do? Do I push my own system through and try to make it work forever it is? Or do I really have to look at it, look at the club, look at the club's identity, the DNA, look at the league where he's coming into, because the Premier League is a complete different animal that he's been used to in Portugal. So back to Garnacho, that is one of his problems. So they must have asked Amorim, what do you think? So the fact that he's already linked with Napoli and maybe Chelsea and all this and that, he's probably says, well, I'd rather, if you can sell him for that kind of money, then I'd rather bring in a player that I know who can play that role. That's my take on it.
Do you think they'll give him that responsibility? Because how many times Man United have given the manager the benefit of the doubt and bring their players in?
What have you done it with?
Rather than their recruitment has to be...
Yeah, but I find, sorry Sam, to interrupt you, I find it strange if you look at it, that what Manchester United has always been and stood for. And, you know, in terms of, in my time with Sir Alex Ferguson and the way he played.
Yeah.
And people say, yes, we played most of the time with 4 at the back, you know, and it could be a 4-3-3, it could be variations of anything, because don't make a mistake. Sir Alex Ferguson was very flexible in his approach, but we played with wingers. But if we played with Giggs on the right and Valencia on the left and Valencia on the right, was completely different than playing with, let's say, Cristiano Ronaldo or Nani.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we had the tactical differences within that, so to speak.
Their strengths effectively, isn't it?
Exactly.
As well, you know?
So I would never get caught up in one particular system, because as soon as the ball starts moving, the system moves. You know, sometimes you start with 4 at the back, but when you push players forward, you might play 2-4-4, depending how the game pans out. You don't know.
Is he too rigid with his system, Sam?
Oh, there's no doubt about it in my mind. I think that there's one thing about players that you have to find out, particularly when you go into I do recently, it's a crisis club that I go into. And it's speaking to every player about where do you like to play best? What's your best position? You know, and then suiting a system that goes around the information that you've absorbed, as well as talking to all the staff that stayed with the club that you're with, what's happened here. And a lot of what's happened with the players is certain players talk about not being treated right, or there's a lack of confidence, or so you've got to rebuild all that as quick as you can. But the most important thing is saying you like playing in this position, so we're going to play this way. Now there is occasions where you'd ask a player, look, how are you playing in? Will you play in this position? I know it's not the favourite position to be, but for the benefit of the team, will you do that job? Like you mean? And obviously, most of them say yes, because they're better off being in the team than saying, "Oh, well, I won't play there." Well, you won't be in the team then, right? So I think after what most of us seem to do is speak to all the players where they would like to play, but obviously he's sort of hell bent on the back three. It's worked for him. Listen, there's no doubting how good a coach he's been and what he's done in the past over in Portugal. There's no doubt about that. But I'll cast my mind back to when I first got my first job at Blackpool, and things started to work for me at Blackpool, playing a back three, and we got in the playoffs and so on and so forth. And then I lost my job there, and then I went to Notts County, and I thought, I'll be putting this back in place. What I learned at Blackpool never worked. Didn't suit the players. So I ended up like changing the system that we had with the players that we had. And that brought the results, kept me in a job, got promoted, started. So it taught me way back in all those days there that I have to be flexible. I have to be able to look at a team and say, and this is where it's frowned upon. If you use the word pragmatic today, it's frowned upon in the game. Oh, he's a pragmatic manager. Well, being pragmatic is the right way to be. It's solving the problems that you've got within your team. I always say to players, this system's no good unless you play your best at it. Mm-hmm. You can play any system you want. If the players don't perform, the system will be no good. And then everybody will talk about the system. And then everybody, if the players are playing on top of the game, then they'll say, "Oh, that's a good system, isn't it?" So the players have to play to their very, very best to make any system work. But you need one that suits them best, makes them feel comfortable, builds the confidence. And that's really where they're struggling now. Now the players are saying, or playing to a level that's underperforming again. So I've got this thing in the way that players, when you talk to players, there's reactive and proactive, right? And what Man United are for me is reactive, not proactive. You see it so much when you're in a struggling side. When you go to a big club, West Brom, yeah. Reactive is we're playing Chelsea away, we win 5-2 because we're playing Chelsea. Yeah. Next week, you ask them to be the same, they lose to Sheffield United, who are at the bottom with you. Mm. So they can build themselves up for the big game and go out there. But then when it comes to the real important game, of getting 3 points against somebody in the box, they can't do it. And the Man United seemed like that to me. Liverpool, Arsenal, Brighton, down the pan again.
The writing was on the wall again against Southampton.
Yes.
Because Southampton, which was obviously bottom of the Premier League, you think yourself, well, and listening to Amorim saying before, he says, I'm going to learn more about this game than the games against Liverpool.
That's right.
And Arsenal, because the expectations weren't there, and Man United was able to have a bit more of a defensive approach and all this, and they were forced against Arsenal because they lost a man. But then you go to Southampton, which you think normally in olden days, that is dominated by Man United, possession, 75-25, chance after chance, just wait for the first goal to go in. But Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth, Newcastle, they've laid down a blueprint how to play against Man United, which is on the front foot, press them early, be aggressive, so they try to still play out from the back. Mm-hmm. They go long, they can't hold on to the ball, and those teams are brave to play. Southampton did exactly that. And I tell you what, I was so impressed by watching them play. Then obviously you got an 8-minute cameo of Diallo that suddenly when Man United chased the game, the tempo went up, there was more quality, there was more threat in the back third. Then I said, if they score one, they will score 2 or 3, which they did. Now Brighton, again, different kettle of fish. And Brighton has got more substance throughout the 90 minutes because they learned obviously the lesson, well, we can go in front, but it doesn't mean that we still win the game because United can still do it. Because they still have individuals that can change a game. But I agree totally with Sam. It's not a fine oil unit, that you think, because every time I think to myself, oh, well, what are we going to see tomorrow night? Especially on the comments of Amorim that he's made. Now another home game. How do the fans come to the stadium? You know what I mean? It's all going to be,
It's against Rangers, that is a huge game, because Rangers are 13 points behind Celtic. United are 14 points off the top 4. So it feels like the Europa League becomes a really great opportunity for both of them to forget about the league form and to have a chance of going on and winning something this season.
Yeah, I mean, if it's very, very important for the front end of what Manchester United are, but the real problem is the league position.
Yeah.
I mean, he must improve the league position. He must try and get in the top. Well, it looks like he needs a run of games to get himself in the top 6 or better. Going in the Europa League is fine. It's if it's a trophy, it would be great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ten Hag lived on winning the FA Cup, didn't he?
Yeah.
And I think that what Man United have got at the moment is he sounds confused now. That he hasn't experienced the pressure of being the manager of Manchester United, and now he's experiencing it for the first time.
Yeah.
And that could cloud your judgment. He needs some really good staff. I'm sure Rene would agree. You need some really good staff to manage the expectation of this monster football club.
But that's one of the problems that he's also brought in, because he all brought his own staff with him. I think it's only Darren Fletcher still there, and I don't know what role he plays. But if you don't have experienced it, you don't know what it's like. And that image that United always had. I mean, every club now that faces Man United, whether it's at Old Trafford or at home, you think we can get something here. That was never the case. That was never the case. I mean, I remember at the time that obviously we were walking out the tunnel most of the time. We were 1-0 up, and we had this approach in the first 20 to 30 minutes. We're going to make it so hard for the opposition that when they look at the clock and it's still 0-0, they're going to go, oh Jesus!
Thank God for that. I used to do that when I came. I'd look at that clock, go, 20 minutes and they haven't scored yet. Come on, lads.
There's a sense as well, you mentioned he doesn't know the pressure of United, he's settling in, but there's also a sense that he still doesn't know his best 11. If you were trying to pick his best 11 for his system, there's no point in saying let's change the system. Who are you picking for his best 11?
I still think he's getting close to it, because there's a few minor changes, like the other day when he played with De Ligt, with Maguire and Euro. Sometimes there's Martinez there and Euro here, so Maguire sort of come back in. I think for 3 at the back, it has helped Maguire, because I do think he's more vulnerable when you play 2 at the back. So he's got a little bit of support. Obviously, Ugarte is obviously one of the guys that, again, young Mine who's coming back in. He trusts them more than anything. At time, if he doesn't perform, Bruno Fernandes drops back in there, but he has not really the discipline, to play, as another 6. So a lot of times when you still see United play, I think they do struggle in the middle of the park, where the opposition wins the battle. Yeah. But I think those are the players you got. What do you call it? Mazraoui and Dalot, on the left-hand side. Sometimes they swap for whatever reason, but neither of them is left-footed. But anyway, that's the best option that you got. Malaysia's not an option. Then obviously you got young Diallo, who played against Brighton, with Fernandes in the 10 position. He had Zirkzee up front, because there's a reward of what he did against Arsenal. Or it's Højlund. So does he know his best 11? I don't think so. But there's no massive changes. I do think that sometimes it brings Garnacho on, in that 10 position.
And Rashford's completely bombed.
Yeah, but that is another interesting debate, first and foremost, because you think to yourself that Marcus, again, coming to the club, he's actually coming in the peak years of his performances, and you question the fact that what is going on, because he hasn't not performed for quite a while, and you think, what is going on? Is there anything more going on that we don't know of? But that he's a talented player and he should be a really important, influential player for Man United is without a doubt. And really, within weeks, he wasn't picked. Man City, he got away with it because he won that game. Otherwise, other questions would have been asked. They would have said, "Listen, why have you not brought Rashford and Garnacho, because they're the most dangerous.
But that was
attackers
just the last 2 minutes again, wasn't it?
Exactly, and they win the
You know what I mean?
game, and then suddenly
It
everybody
was-
says, "Oh, he's brave. He knows exactly what he wants to do." And Rashford quickly made up his mind, I think, after that, and that's why he came up with his comments. Well, I think maybe it's time for me to go. It all does not sit well. You know what I mean? No matter how you look at it. So, has he got his best 11? He thinks every time when he starts with his best 11, I think, yeah, that's my best 11. And then when the game, because just to come back to the Southampton and Brighton game, because what he wanted to see from Manchester United was not a really solid, good defensive performance. He wanted to see Man United dominating, play with an intensity, play with flow, play with creativity, creating chances and scoring goals. That's what he wanted to see.
Yeah.
And he didn't see any of that. He didn't see any of that. He saw the last 8 minutes against Southampton where he got away with it, and against Brighton, they didn't see any of that. They scored through a penalty, and that was it. And he must scratch his head all the time, and obviously
He won't be sleeping very well.
Nah.
I guess especially in January when
Yeah.
it's so
Well, I
much
mean, you've
transfer
got
talk.
Anthony going out on. He's gone on loan, isn't he? I mean,
He's
you know,
Real Betis.
he's gone to Real Betis, an £85 million player that hasn't worked, which is not one that he recruited. And I still say, we're still talking about years gone by now that the recruitment is still a major factor. And now they're in a position where financially it's very difficult for them to compete now.
Yeah.
Because what they've lost on Anthony is lost. His write-off is massive.
Yeah.
So the 85 million would be what will we get for him if he doesn't perform as well? Will they pay 10 million? Will they pay 15, 20 million? You know what I mean? So that's like, the loss there is fine, where football clubs at the peak, or Sir Alex at his peak, was selling fringe players at 10 million quid. And
more than anything, I think, Sam, I don't know whether you agree, is I just cast my mind back to what we had. We had plenty of leaders and personalities and characters in the squad. That's what I don't see. See, Bruno Fernandes is the captain. And I rate him so much in many ways in terms of a player, because he always looks forward, thinks forward, he's positive, he creates things. But on the other hand, I think you're not a captain. You're never a captain, because as soon as things go a little bit wrong,
the arms start going,
exactly, and that is a body language that goes over to other players. And I can't see. I've heard Rio the other day saying the same thing. He says, "Who are the players that get their heads together and say, forget about Amorim for a minute. Hey, we are on the pitch. Let's get together. Let's really create a strong bond here, and let's really start working at things and making sure that we can turn things around, because those are the ones that are going to turn things around, especially in the possession side of things. I'm sure Sam, there's certain clear principles when you're defending, because
Absolutely,
you say there's no coming away from that, because everyone has to do the job. If you decide to press high, this is what everybody does. If you drop it, a block, whatever it is, doesn't matter. But going forward, that was the same thing with us, because if you keep telling them what to do, it stifles creativity and therefore unpredictability. And unpredictability you can't defend. What we did with those players, we didn't tell. We just informed them. This is what you're up against. They play 3 at the back, 5 at the back, 4 at the back. This is the trends how they conceded goals. These are the options that you get. Go on with it. You're good enough to solve them. I didn't have to tell Paul Scholes to put a little ball over the top, or Giggsy to come inside or outside or put a cross in. They sorted it out for themselves. But what it does, it empowers the players, and you want them to make when they step up. It's our game. We run this show here.
it's a shame at the moment that it's heading towards. I don't like saying this, but it's heading towards what happened to the club after Sir Matt Busby left. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've got to have to sort it out pretty quickly, so.
Right, let's have a little change around. When we come back, no different if you're on the podcast, we're going to be sat down and we're going to talk about other things that are going on in football now as well. Okay, so we have removed the whiteboard. We are back now on the comfy chairs. And there is lots of other things going on in football to talk about. Now, you were mentioning a minute ago, Rene, about man management and about the importance of man management. And that got me thinking, because we need to talk about Spurs and we need to talk about Ange. He is now the favourite next Premier League manager to leave his role. And I mean, is he the right man? Is he the right man to turn Spurs around, to do it for Spurs?
Strange word, isn't it? He's the favourite. He's the favourite to go.
Well, the bookies will be. He'll be the bookies' favourite as well, won't he?
Well, he's obviously in a bad moment with Spurs, and Sam will say the most important thing is he's obviously had a lot of injuries, especially with Van Dijk, the way that he wants to play. And I think it's well documented. He's only got one way and he's got no plan B. And that all becomes a discussion when the results are not going for you. When the results are there and, then it's not that much of an issue. But it's obviously well documented. Now, I don't know Ange personally that well enough. I only met him a few times, in and around that we were when we played actually England with Australian national team. So he came to visit us. But we basically took over from Ange, the national team. He got them qualified for the World Cup in 2018. He then stepped down. Bert van Marwijk took him to the World Cup in Russia. But we took over from there. So basically the environment that we had to sort of come to terms with was created by Ange. And it was different from what we wanted to create, because we did hear that, well, he didn't communicate much, and you know what I mean? And I think Sam mentioned it before, like sometimes when he addresses the media, he doesn't really look straight. It's always a little bit like this and that and the other. So I've heard before that he might not necessarily be the greatest communicator. Now, if there's anything to dig you out of a hole and to close the ranks to making you pulling everybody together, you need to make sure your communication is good with all the staff, with all the players. You address what's in front of you, because if things are not going well, you can hide from it. There's no point in hiding it because everybody knows where you are. You have to address it, and you need to think in solutions. So what can we do better to all make it happen? So it's obviously that the bookmakers come up with that. He's the first one to go, because obviously that's where Tottenham don't want to be.
He's getting agitated with the questions as well, isn't he?
Yes.
The supporters are writing in, and on social media. What's social media got to do with what they say? Most of them on social media and don't even go to the game and tell you that you're useless. They don't say how brilliant they are. Stay with him. They all say, what a load of crap this manager is. Get rid of it. So you've got all that contend with.
But he's got obviously two massive games coming up. Hoffenheim in Europa League, I think tomorrow, and then obviously Leicester, who are
and then the semi-final.
Yeah, and then a semi-final. So they have something to look forward to. But the key for me is Sam, has he still got the dressing room? That's the main thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's the main thing. And if he does that, you then will get a reaction from the players, because they say, no, we don't want that manager to go, so we better pull our finger out here and we put a performance in and we get a result, and to making sure that everything calms down, because that's the only way to quiet things down.
Now, another manager that's under pressure, we talked about Ange, is Ruud van Nistelrooy. I didn't realise the Spurs were playing Leicester. That is a huge game. He's really under pressure at the minute. I mean, I think it's 7 defeats in a row Leicester have had. He's still a new manager. When do we? But
I have to say this though, because he had three positive results for Manchester United, doesn't give him the credentials to go and manage Leicester City.
Yeah,
do you agree?
Might ask me when people ask me straight away what you think, and I think I scratched my head. I said I'm not too sure whether that's a wise decision. Also, I don't know what he's been told, what he can and what he cannot do. But he's also never experienced the 4 games that he was in charge of Man United. It's got no relevance whatsoever. That's the bad whatever, or the teacher leaving the classroom and another one comes in and everybody sets up straight and great and flow, and the games had no significance in my opinion. That was just a normal reaction. This is a relegation battle, and you need to be an expert in that, in the most difficult league in the world. And I've looked at all the fixtures and I've looked at all the games they've played, and I've watched them, and you can see there is Sir Alex Ferguson always used to say, losing was rare, but never lose 2 games in a trot. Always.
That was a disaster, wasn't it?
Oh, that was a disaster.
Yeah.
So it was a draw, boom, of a win and kick on. But what I'm saying is, if you come to Leicester, you can lose 2 games in a trot. You may be 3.
But it can't be 4.
Exactly, and because then other things start to kick in, and that confidence that was fragile anyway. Yeah. That line, that starts snapping even more. And within that period of time, the players by now have already sussed out what Ruud is about. The way he speaks to the player, how he does his training sessions, how he does his tactical meetings, whatever. You know what I mean? Because players are not daft. They know, and also players are very quickly like, when a new guy, I like him. He knows what he wants. He's clear. Blah blah blah. You know, and yeah, did, and obviously, and that's when it backed up results. Fine. If it doesn't, then it gets so hard for your managers to come across trustworthy because no, we lost again. Now this is the right way to play. Lost again. So he is obviously in a difficult scenario. Plus the fact that he went in there by himself. That's why I said I don't know what they've told him. They might have said, listen, you know, we like you to come in, but you have to work with the staff that's here.
I think he's handling it well, press-wise, when I see him, considering that he's looking, you know, looking a bit gaunt, like I said, but you get like that. You look a bit ashen when you're trying your best and you move this around, you move that around. And ultimately, at the end of the day, from an interview point of view after, I think he's done pretty well, like the way he's responded to it and been positive. I've said this before, when I meet up with a board in this position, and Steve Cooper's a fantastic manager, by the way. I mean, Steve Cooper's done an ultimate job when he kept Nottingham Forest where he kept them, when he had to deal with 22 new players at once, and then managed to stay in the league. You know, I thought that was one of the best achievements you could do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And a lot of those players wouldn't have been his choice, as we've talked about before, and then he's gone on. So that maybe they were a little hasty at moving him on, but like Ruud getting into. There's one thing you say: how are you going to help me?
Yeah.
Because January's coming. What can you give me in January? Because if they can't give him 2 or 3 players, it's not going to be easy to get him safe.
Because I think it's fair to say,
You know what I mean?
you over time, because you've worked a lot of time with similar people as well.
Yes.
And I think it's important that you've got that, you know what I mean? If you would say, if you asked the question differently, would you've gone in with Ruud? It's a kind of different question. I think that I could work with Ruud really, really well.
Yeah.
He's actually asked me that question when he was at PSV, you know, whether I wanted to come for the next season. Obviously, he walked away the day before the season finished, which was a shame, I think, because I think he jumped ship too early. You know what I mean? And now, that is what I tried to say before as well, Natalie. As a player, 90% of his career, he's played in trophy-winning teams. He always knows what it is to be on the front foot, the better side, winning things, winning trophies, winning. And this is, like I said, now you have to, you know, dig yourself out of something completely different, which he's not using. It requires a different kind of approach and mentality. You know, like Sam said before, when you are in there, you look at the bottom 8 teams. Listen, guys, these are finals for us. You know what I mean? And you know, it's great to win an odd game or an odd result against a Liverpool or Man United or Chelsea. That's a bonus, because most of the time when you do that, the next game against the bottom team, you lose. So those 3 points, you know, level out anyway.
But you can get what if you can get what you want and move a staff on if you had to that staff, if you got, because they've give you the job. They're not going to say, well, I'm doing it for the right reasons because this person's not working to the way I want to develop the club, or he's not doing the right things that I need to happen to get the team to play better. So you can get them moved on. Obviously not too many, but then you should start to get 1 or 2 your own in who you trust more, you know, who can give you a bit more confidence. But the most important thing is, who can we loan? Who can we loan and who can we buy? And that's, I don't know whether he'll be able to do that in the next few days, because I don't think they've signed anybody, have they?
No, not at the moment. No.
You know what I mean?
But it's worth an investment, isn't it?
It's worth a
to
go.
try to stay in the Premier League. I mean, otherwise, if you go back in the Championship again, and
There'll be plenty of players to loan if you've got the right people working behind the scenes. That players that will pop up now that you couldn't get in the first 2 weeks in January, you'll be able to get on loan in the last week in January.
Yeah, I think the Leicester fans
they
would say that's
they
the
can
problem.
make a big difference. I've managed to keep teams up on the back of that January window many times.
Yeah. Somebody that's really linked to everybody right now in the January window, Cunha at Wolves, is being linked all over the show. Obviously, he's scored a bucket full of goals for
They can't
a club
afford
that
to
is
sell
struggling.
anybody. They've already sold enough.
Well, he's been linked to Forest, to Arsenal and to Manchester United. And I think people are really getting in on it, Rene, because of his body language. And people are saying that obviously the new Wolves manager has criticised these players. And now people are questioning Cunha's body language, and as they do in January, looking for anything. What do you make of it?
I like him as a player. I really do. I've he caught my eye, much earlier than everybody talked about, because he can drive for the ball. He got to change the pace. He's got a bravura about him. You know what I mean? He can make the difference. But he's temperamental, South American. And like I said, when you start hearing, maybe that those clubs are interested. Obviously, I heard that obviously Wolves wants to sign him down, but he wants to have a clause in it if they do get relegated. Wolves says we don't need that, because when we do get relegated, we need to sell you anyway. But you can't sail on that course because you want to safeguard your future. But but if clubs of that caliber, I mean, Nottingham Forest, I wouldn't take too serious, with all respect. It's good because obviously it's a club that is, pushing above the weight, doing really well and sniffing about but for Cunha, I would think Cunha from Wolves to Nottingham Forest, but Cunha to Man United, that would be a really good addition, I think.
They need to keep him to stay in the Premier League.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, you've got somebody that scores your goals. You're more than halfway there, because the other area is easier to stop the goals going in than it is to score them. You know what I mean? So just making your team more defensively solid when you haven't got the ball, and that's not negative, by the way. That means that you're doing a great job in winning the ball back and giving your attacking players and more possession. When you're a poor team defensively, you keep letting goals in, all you seem to be doing is kicking off again after you've let another goal in again. Whereas if you're defensively solid, you win the ball back in all sorts of area and give your goal scorer more opportunities to score more goals. It goes hand in hand. They'll need to keep him to score the goals to keep him up.
What is predictable is Simon Jordan always whinges about something. I want to get your thoughts on this. He has criticised West Ham for the £57 million bid they made for Jean Duran, saying it's to make it appear that they are willing to spend, knowing that it will never be accepted. Obviously, David Sullivan. Does that sound like something he would do?
It's a possibility, yeah. But he does spend money. The one thing about David, when he does go, he goes well. When you can convince him, he does it. And he does do it. He does buy players. And he bought a lot of players for the new manager this year.
Let's see what happens to Graham Potter.
But when he has the likes of me and Moisey, it does work.
There you go.
And now Graham Potter's got a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Definitely. He's come back out. I mean, he clearly took a long time to come back before his contract to Chelsea was cleared. It was obviously one of those where he needed to wait for Chelsea to pay him off before he took another job.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
he had a few nice
otherwise he'd have lost his money by the sound of it.
Yeah.
So his excuses were very good at the time, but reading between the lines, it was it was one of those.
I really hope it works out for him. I do.
Yeah.
Okay, so
interesting to see.
Last for the podcast today, we've got 3 questions for you that our listeners have sent in. You can always send them in. You can reply to us on any social
questions
media.
in.
Yes, or on the YouTube videos.
The more questions we get, the more we'll answer.
Yes, send some more in for Sam. Right, Mark has asked you, who was the best player in Manchester United training when you were there?
I've got these questions like so often, and I always find it difficult because it's almost doing a discredit to all the other ones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, like I said, my time at that time with the first team, Man United, was unique, and we had a unique squad with so much talent. But for personal preferences, you always have that. I just absolutely love Paul Scholes. He just made everything look so easy. He made everything tick. Like I said, there's not many players that can create rhythm, change rhythm, maintain rhythm, play short, play long, and when he had those zingers over, 60, 70 yards, you know what I mean? And he just loved the game, you know what I mean? He was just a delight to watch.
What they wouldn't do for someone like him now, eh? Wow.
He was special.
Wow.
Really special.
Okay, Craig has asked, very sneaky Craig, is there a player Manchester United almost signed that you knew about but didn't end up happening?
Yeah, and that was actually tagging on to Scholesy when you sort of come to the end of the career. We need to think, okay, what are we going to look at here? And we had this discussion about, because the manager asked me about Wesley Sneijder.
Oh yeah.
I said it's the same height, no problem, in the same shirt, no same size big. But somebody that can link the build-up defence to attack, and Wesley Sneijder was also a very good player. You know what I mean? Same you sort of idea, passing range and all that. And he would ask me, he said, "Do you think you would fit in?" I say, "Yeah, 100%, 100%." But that never materialised for whatever reason. It never came up. I don't know how far they went in the talks, but I remember Sir Alex asking me about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, I love that. Okay, finally, for both of you, what is the strangest superstition you've ever seen from a player that you've managed or coached?
Oh.
I always know, I've not seen him, but I always remember, you always remember Johan Cruyff.
Yep.
And I've worked with one of the, the famous right backs that Ajax and Holland had, Wim Suurbier. And we were chatting about it, and he said Johan Cruyff always used to chew gum, and just before the kickoff, he would spit it out and kick it over the halfway line. that was his thing.
Amazing.
So
that clearly worked.
That was it. Yeah, there was he had always chewing gum and then boop, and then kicked it over the halfway line.
Young footballers, that's what you need to be doing.
So there you go. But but for myself, I can't really remember that anybody from United that had a kind of a superstition. I don't know, maybe
Matty Taylor at West Ham, left strap in right, strap in socks, boot, go out for the warm up, come back in, take the boots off, take the socks off, take the strappings off, get restrap, more socks, more boots, then go back again.
Always that order.
Always that order, yeah. So it's like bizarre. You know what I mean? So, mind you, as a young manager, wearing the same suit and tie and shirt and all that crap, I did them for a long time, like me. Even the same underpants at some point, you know what I mean? Well, this is BS.
Washed, of course.
This is BS.
Clearly,
like,
clearly.
Stop it.
Yes.
Stop it.
When I was playing in Holland, and that was a sort of an amateur level, we always drove in the own cars to the away games. And when we drove away, there was this goat in the field.
Okay.
And when the goat was looking at us, we 100% sure we were going to win. But when he was facing the other way, people would stop, got out the field, turn the goat around. Anyway, the funny thing was, at one point he didn't stand up. It was only that he was laying down, so the goat died. But yeah.
No, and then did you lose?
yeah. Well, that's when everything all went downhill from there. But yeah, that was it.
That's the best superstition we've heard.
Yeah.
Straight from you. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming on again. It was a real pleasure again.
Thanks again, Rene. Great to see you. And
No
thanks to
problem.
all our
Great to see you,
followers, subscribers.
Yep.
Keep watching. We love you.
There you go. That's a perfect ending. Thank you.